Well, good morning, everybody. First of all, sorry I'm getting to you a little bit later this morning than normal. I mean, you can actually see the sun is already rising here in the midsection of the country. Got in kind of late last night, about 3:30, and just need a little more sleep. So here we go. It's about 7 a.m. We're getting started with this forecast, and it's amazing just to see the size and depth of the low that rolled through the United States last night. And it's going to sit here for a while. It is vertically stacked. It's going to sit here and spin for probably another 36 hours or so before finally getting out of the picture. And just as we look back to yesterday, I want to show you what this looks like as the sun was setting last night. This was a rapidly deepening low. We watched severe convection roll all the way from the Ohio River Valley, clear down here into parts of the southeast, and it produced a lot of severe weather. But there were several other parts to the storm system that I found quite fascinating to be monitoring. And one of the things is the large, clear, side of it, the back side of it here, because I can kind of get a look at that snow that fell in parts of South Dakota into parts of Nebraska. In fact, I was looking at it this morning, just seeing some of the warmth erode that snow away from yesterday. So this is before the sunset, last night. It's also pretty amazing to see the Missouri River in through here as well. Just thinking about what that river looked like back in 2019 in late March, where the ice that was still on the river, which you can clearly see it doesn't have it this year, was breaking up, causing massive flooding problems in parts of South Dakota, getting into Nebraska. I thought you'd like to see that snow on the backside of this system. But the main show yesterday was all the severe weather. And as of this morning, we've already got 214 reports and put out on the Storm Prediction Center's maps. Let's blow that up so you can see a little bit better. And of that, 14 reports of tornadoes. Now, I'll be honest, two of them right in through here, to my knowledge, did not do any damage. But I was a little bummed because, I live in Champaign, and I had to drive to Chicago to catch a flight last night, and I was just ahead of these and just could not risk turning around to go see them. But they were these two reports that were near, in Kankakee County, and there were some great pictures of what they look like. But if you take a look at the rest of these tornadoes, there was a lot that did a lot of damage. Part of the storm system through Kentucky, maybe you saw in the news this morning, the student that was blown over by the incredibly strong winds. That was all a part of the same complex of storms that came through to give us these reports. If you just look at the hail measured by radar, this is what I've got over the last 3 days. And kind of just take a quick look in here. This complex was able to put down quite a bit of hail, doing a lot of damage across a big section here of the country, from Texas all the way to West Virginia and everywhere in between. It seems like saw storms that were capable of producing some hail. But on the, I guess I'd call this the beneficial side of all of this, this was a pretty big win for the models. They had picked up on this region as having the best odds of grabbing 1 to 3 inches of rain. And as you can see, some of these storms were capable of putting down much more than that. And you know that so much of the Ohio and mid-Mississippi Valley was a concern for me, given the soil moisture deficits we were still dealing with from a year ago. You can also see heavier rains coming through parts of Missouri, a spot that was missed by the previous system. Same thing for this section of Kansas down into Oklahoma. But that is not to ignore the larger holes from this system that need to be filled in by the following systems that are coming through. If you look everywhere just east here of the Rocky Mountains. Now, speaking of the mountains, we do have another north-south moving low that's coming in very soon. That's going to start to add more snow to the western mountain ranges, and that one will eject into the southern plains. And that one, I think, is going to be a slow enough system to start to draw moisture back into some of those key areas we talked about. But we'll get back to that in just a few seconds here. I do want to show you that through 7 o'clock last night, getting a look at the snow, we can see that the system did put down a pretty good swath in the air of 6 to 8 inches of snow. And I imagine it's more than this, given that it's been snowing overnight in this area, and it's about to snow a whole lot more in the UP of Michigan with this system getting all stacked up here. But you probably remember yesterday I was watching this corner of Iowa to see how much we could bring in here. And through last night, according to the National Snowfall Analysis, we did pick up a few inches of snow through here in a couple of pockets, even grabbing greater than 6 inches of snow. Now, the low this morning continues to curl up here, and this is a radar animation I create that attempts to classify the precipitation type. And you can see, I think that it was struggling a little bit in this area with the classification, because the greens would represent rain falling. The reason I say that is because I went and looked at the surface observations, and while they may look like a mess to you, if you look at these maps enough, your eye's just drawn to the certain features, and I'm looking a lot for these double asterisks here. That would just tell me where we are having snow early this morning. So throughout parts of southern Wisconsin, getting into a large section here of Iowa, getting pretty far to the south of I-80, almost down to Peoria, picking up snow this morning on the surface ob. But very strong winds. We have winds that are gusting here 35 to 40 miles an hour. And we can really easily find the low. Can you see where everything kind of spirals up right over Lake Michigan? And yesterday I mentioned that this low was going to get stacked up in that area, and I just want to show you what that looks like. So here is the surface low pressure system this morning, sitting right here. And this is, as we step up in the atmosphere to about a mile, where the upper level low is sitting. Well, I guess I should call that the low level low. The upper level low is there too. And if you go all the way up to 250 millibars, I mean, we're 75% of the way through the mass of the atmosphere. This is up where the jet stream lives. That's where the upper level low is. And so my point behind me telling you this is that this system will stay here for a while. It's closed off, it's cut off, it's going to sit and spin. And what that means is the map I showed you a moment ago with these surface obs is going to look like this for most of the day as this sits and spins here. So let's go have a look at the all hazards weather map as of 7 a.m. Widespread wind advisories. We still have the winter storm warnings here, also the ones into New England and the interior here of the Northeast. And then you can see a large area of New York, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Virginia under flood watch because of the way that this system is going to just continue to put down rain there. The storms continue to roll through parts of the Southeast this morning, coming out of parts of Georgia into Florida. And if we just take a look, that's where I'm seeing the most dense kind of recording here of lightning strikes. So this is where our storms are still pushing hard into this area. And there is a tornado watch out for that region. But the next storm system is about to just move its way right along the West Coast. So we already have the high wind issues going on here in the forecast for parts of the Great Basin, getting down into Arizona, and then the winter weather advisories shown up in the Sierra Nevada mountains. So, Storm Prediction Center map this morning. In fact, let's do a quick refresh on that. Yeah, storms have already cleared through part of this area. So I'm not so sure that we are going to be watching for storms to be severe again later today, but we'll take a close look at that. And just to show you what the snow looks like, this is the latest guidance from the WPC. So our probability map of getting at least 2 inches is shown here. Let's step it up to 4. And now we're going to watch still a few more areas picking up quite a bit of heavy snow here, with the UP being the largest, kind of when you're thinking about the Great Lakes region. And then if you come into the interior parts of the Northeast, that's the probability of 4. It's over 95%. Step it up to 8. Again, it's those same areas of New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine that have the highest probabilities of grabbing the heaviest snow out of this. We'll take a closer look at that in a second. But it's not to ignore this next system, what it can do in the West, which again, this is a lot of late season snow for the Western United States to be picking up. I want to go east versus west, and I'm going to stick to the National Digital Forecast Database on this rather than the individual models. But again, you notice that through the next probably 24 to 36 hours, we have the chance of grabbing another 2 to 4 inches highlighted right into this part of Wisconsin. Much heavier snow right into parts of the UP. And then you can see those 3 areas as we get into parts of the interior of the Northeast that have the highest chances of grabbing several inches of snow. Some of the models are predicting 8 to 12, some places picking up close to 18 inches of snow, all induced by elevation here. There will be some snow in the Appalachian Mountains as well as this low just continues to curl up. And if you're in this area, this part of the Ohio Basin, getting into the Great Lakes Basin, don't be surprised if you see snowflakes flying out of this system at times as the temperatures flirt with freezing in this region and possibly give way to some snow squalls. Going to the west, though, this is just over the next 72 hours. The next system slides down. It's just to point out here that the Sierra Nevadas, which we know are loaded with snow right now, are expected to pick up in some places another 8 to some places up to 18 inches, and some decent snow coming into the Great Basin as well. So with all of that, let's go right into the high-res models. We're going to pick this up at 8 a.m. this morning. So the low continues to sit and spin. Here's where the chance of storms again later today come through this area. We will watch to see if these do have the ability to reach severe criteria, but the main push of rain is through this part of the Carolinas already. So what we're going to watch is that low just sit and spin through this evening. And again, see the snow squalls that could be happening in parts of Indiana here, back in Illinois and Wisconsin. Broad shield of snow farther to the north. And maybe a mix to begin with here as we work our way into tonight, into early Thursday morning. So over 26 hours, that low went from here to there. So that's what happens when they're stacked. They don't move very far. So this is through 3 a.m. on Thursday, playing through the day on Thursday, into Thursday afternoon and evening. This low will continue to have an influence here with stronger winds, snow on the backside as this rolls out by Friday. This will be midday Friday before this kind of finally starts to wind its way down in the northeast. Now during that time, you're going to watch this again. I'll go back. You'll see that low slide north to south. Here it is. Right here, 7 p.m. on Wednesdays when I'm picking this up. It's going to slide straight to the south, so snow coming in through this corridor. And as it dips farther to the south, it spins right over San Francisco Bay. And that'll be the next system that we're going to keep a close eye on. So to see where these next few systems go, let's go right back to that top-down view on the North Pole of our trough ridge system. There's your stacked low. There's your blocked North Atlantic. So you can see this here big ridge that's sitting in place. But you're going to watch a couple things. That means this low is slow to move out. The next one's going to dive straight south. And what I'm curious about that next low, this is through Thursday, getting into Friday, as it sits over California in the Great Basin. This is now Saturday. How slowly does that one come out? And does it increase the risk of severe storms here? And what follows it? Because this is a highly amplified pattern. It's not blocked, but it's just more north-south, more meridional than it is zonal. And what that's going to do is toss another low right into this part of the Midwest and the Western Corn Belt, and then take a look at what's behind it right there. That's the guy I'm watching most carefully. And the reason for this is next Monday into Tuesday and Wednesday, is that the models have been quite consistent with the placement of this low farther to the south and kind of leaving it out of the main flow of the jet stream, which means starting again on Tuesday into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It's a slow mover. It takes 4 days to kind of cut across the country like this. And I want to know if that's going to draw enough moisture back into the southern plains to hit some of these very, very dry locations we've been discussing. What I do know is that by day 10, and this has been pretty well resolved by the models, we push our broader troughs further to the west in the ensemble, in the artificial intelligence system, in the GFS. So we get ridging west. There's a warm up that's going to happen here, and there's going to be flow that's a bit drier coming into the Midwest here. And the last place to hang on to cooler weather will be the Northeast in this pattern. So I'm liking the consistency. Just to show you some model consistency, let's go to the artificial intelligence view of it. And again, you see that same look. Now there is one thing on the AIFS system that's got me intrigued here. And that is, remember, my day has been tax day. I said we got to get, if you're a Midwestern grower, past tax day. It tries to drop one more system in there right around that time frame. It's not really well resolved in the ensembles yet, but that's the last one that I'm going to have to keep an eye on. And then we'll see if this pattern truly does calm down a bit as we move into the second half of April. So we need to watch that guy right there. All right, so we'll watch out for that. We'll keep you updated. Again, the timing of that, this is like the 14th, 15th, 16th as that rolls through. At the end of this video, I'll show you an updated map from NOAA on last frost dates, but that could be a key one by the time we get to the 18th that we'll have to be discussing. Okay, artificial intelligence forecasting system. Couple things to take note of. That same area that was missed by the previous system is showing up missed by the next view as well in the AIFS system. But that following system, the one that comes down here, sticks around like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week. It is the one that the models are attempting to draw back moisture into a key region of the western and high plains down here that's been so very dry. And it's also the same system that adds collectively to the previous two to really soak parts of the Mid-South. And as I've stated many times, I'm worried about this region, or here later on in summer for drought development. But I'm quite intrigued at the performance of the artificial intelligence forecasting system by the European model on picking up on these things, I think a bit earlier than maybe the ensembles are, or a bit earlier than the normal operational runs. So speaking of them, let's go have a look. Now, I apologize again. I thought I had solved my problems with the European model. They've been delivering data late to me. That's what's been going on here. So there's going to be 2 time periods. I don't want you to look at the map on the right, but we're going to do a model comparison here between that and the GFS. So as we play forward, the good news is that both models are in pretty good agreement until there. This is not right. Ignore this over here. Watch the GFS. So the GFS still by this Friday, getting into Friday afternoon and evening, we're dealing with that low spinning here. This is all wrong. No, don't look over here. This is bad data. As we then play forward, the European model comes back, here on Sunday. So here we are. Here's our next low, large dry slot into this area, which is why we're missing this area with the precip, but could be some stronger storms all along that frontal boundary with the system that's coming out on Saturday night and Sunday morning. Now that one curls up again. Both models are in sync once more. And we watch for better snows in Montana. We watch this low kind of fizzle its way out as it moves across the country. And then here you go. Remember, there's another low coming out of Arizona and New Mexico next Tuesday. And that is the one that I'm starting to see better chances of drawing that moisture farther and farther back. And the artificial intelligence forecast system really does it, brings it much farther back into this area. But it's the one that's going to add a whole lot more rain to parts of the Mid-South as well, and possibly the risk of severe storms about a week from now. All right. Beyond that, we see that low curling up, going through the Corn Belt, dragging its front through the south, and exiting through New England. And remember, this is through the 12th. There's one more system I'm watching, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th roll through before we could start to make a break away from this active pattern and get into some open planting windows later in April. So if we look at some probability maps, this is the next 10 days. This is the chance on the European ensemble of staying under a tenth. And what I'm watching for is the eroding away of this area right in through here to see if we can get more moisture. And as it stands, our dry spot is here in Colorado, Kansas, and Nebraska, and of course the desert Southwest. In this section of parts of Saskatchewan, Manitoba, getting Ontario over toward the Hudson Bay. I'm going to step this up to a ½ inch. So this is who is expected to stay under a ½ inch. So a lot of the Canadian prairie is a bit drier. That area really starts to show up now. Same spot in the artificial intelligence forecast. But this next system, could it really draw good moisture back into this area? Well, here's the probability of an inch. 10-day, who's got the best chance of grabbing an inch more of total accumulated precip? And now you can see as I step it up to 2 where those really wet areas are going to be, because we still have the current system adding to the next 2 that are going through this area. All right. So I like this probability view just to kind of see those wet versus dry spots. The week 2 forecasts, I just think that we may not have it right for this system that rolls right in through here in the models just yet. That is a spot that may be a bit wetter than currently being forecast. But there is agreement between the CPC, the European model, and the GFS ensemble that we're going to be a bit wetter farther to the south here and up the East Coast. That's week 2, April 10th through the 16th. So what we need to be getting into is that discussion on temperatures. And over the next 7 days, this is where I have the frost potential. So this is everywhere where we expect the temperature below 35 Fahrenheit. So remember, I use that adjustment because low-lying areas can get down there. When the overall temperature is 35, you can get these low-lying areas that dip into the 20s. So we're going to keep an eye out on that number. But daytime high temperatures, we're on a bit of a roller coaster. Here's today's highs getting into tomorrow. Look at the warm-up happening in Montana and along the front range here. Deeper trough is sliding back. Remember, it's going to go straight to the south here, so that's what's keeping so much of the west cold. The east is cold because of the current system in the middle part of the country. Downslope flow, winds coming out of the west, things warm up. So that's your warm spot for the weekend here. As we get into early next week, this is Sunday into Monday, broad warmer sector opens up. And remember, this is that system. Monday it'll be here. Tuesday it's in through this area. Wednesday and Thursday it tries to make it to New England, and that's the one I'm going to be watching this area to return some moisture to. That's Monday into Tuesday's temperatures. Day 5 through 10. Oh no, first I threw this in here this morning. Over the next 7 days, because of that warmth, we will be picking up some growing degree days. So using a base of 50, max of 86, take a look at some of these numbers here as we get up into Nebraska and into the Dakotas as well. But a lot down here in the south where we typically stay this warm this time of year. Now day 5 through 10. Models were pretty consistent run to run over the day 5 through 10, day 10 through 15 outlook. And remember, the new kind of setup we saw, more mild in the west with time. But I'm just going to mention again, the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, we could get another cool down that comes through this area in the backside of the low that's not being captured very well by the ensemble averages from the GFS, and it's also not there in the European ensemble. So day 5 through 10, day 10 through 15. See how it's not showing that? I just want to keep an eye out on it just to see if it does roll through here and drop some cooler weather again. Now overall, as I see this pattern evolve, it's looking pretty good that past the 14th, 15th, that the temperature pattern may look something like this. And as we work our way toward the end of the month, there is this kind of larger area of warmer than average conditions, which we've been kind of focused on. And I like it because it matches my analogs, right? We thought that we would favor more mild days later in the month here, maybe keeping parts of the south a bit cool, which, as you can see, maybe that's in there as well. But remember, late April, cooler than average in the south is not cold. We don't have to worry about that as a thought. So there are some things about this that are matching up with our analogs. If I show you the precip side of it, this is also making a bit of sense. Okay, there's most of the rest of April from now through May 3rd. And that is also looking a bit like what we were expecting. Now, we were anticipating severe weather inside of this red dashed line, but wetter to the south and southeast, you can kind of see that. Wetter into parts of New England, sure. And we see that as well. But there could be some more windows opening up in this area late April after the middle of the month that should get there. Now, what's the failure point on this? The failure point is that the end of March and beginning of April has been extremely active. And if persistence wins in the forecast, this is all wrong. It's not going to do this. But we're going to watch out to see if we can get a different pattern in here by the time we get to mid-April. I think it comes via the MJO movement, which we talked about yesterday. So where are we going to wrap up this forecast video? Well, we've gone back here to the April analogs, and then we're going to have to just do a quick discussion on El Nino because all of this is based on El Nino. And we're going to watch over the next, I'd say 3 to 4 weeks, a cool stripe begin to show up here. But what I will be keeping a very close eye on for the next 60 days is this area. We've trended a little cooler here as of late, but we've also been driving troughs of low pressure over the top of this as well. So we would expect this to churning up cooler water. Does it stay that way as we progress farther into spring? Top of mind for me to figure out where the summer drought's going to be. That's why right now my thought is somewhere across the cotton belt. But if this gets colder and colder with time, then that's going to shift north. I'm going to be thinking more about the plains. I'm going to be thinking more about the Corn Belt, maybe into the Northeast as the main drought risk area. Okay, so that's key. To finish this up, though, I want to give you 2 more maps. The first, this is the average data of the last spring freeze from NOAA. So I mentioned it a few moments ago. Just pause it, take a close look at your area. And you notice that April 1 to 15, that's kind of down here. 16 to 30 is in here. Early May is in this region here. I'm just thinking specifically about this section of the country right now. And with that system showing up in the artificial intelligence forecast out there, running the 13th through the 16th, I think once we get past that point, things are going to open up quickly in this area, both climatologically and with the pattern to make some really quick moves on planting. So the other spot in the world we just want to bring up real quick would be South America, and not a whole lot of change in the forecast. Again, through the next 10 days, near normal to wetter than normal conditions on a lot of Safrinha corn, really wet into parts of Paraguay, into southern Brazil, and the little drier signal down here in Argentina is nothing really too much to think about. So that's pushing later and later for there to be an issue with Safrinha corn in this area. So this might be enough rain to get that crop to pollination and early grain fill in some regions here that we're not going to be able to see a weather problem showing up with this Safrinha crop. Now, if that changes, I'll let you know. But right now, the models continue to trend in this direction. What could make a change? A big move in the MJO. If it stalls out in phase 4 or 5, that could be a problem. But I don't see that happening just yet. So we'll pick back up again with this tomorrow. I'm building a new kind of longer range story. We'll give you all of that when we get the new European model in on the 5th. And with that, I'm going to wrap this up. Have a good one. Thanks.